Like Venki is joined, Prashant is joined, Surya. Okay, so I'm seeing a lot of known names. Interesting. Okay, so we are already live. Okay, awesome. So okay, so I'll just admit all live on YouTube. Okay, there are more people joining in. Wonderful. So thank you guys. So it's another Thalam talk during this lockdown season. We still have Unlock, though we call it as Unlock 1.0 and things like that. Bangalore is going through a lockdown for like 10 days. And last couple of days, we are going through this. And it's on till next Wednesday. So today, most of you who attended earlier some of the sessions that we had in Thalam Talks, during lockdown, in those like 70 days, we showcased over 48 photographers, right? Showcasing a lot of work from different genres, starting from documentary to fashion to sports to, culture, event, festival, folklore, right? We had a lot of interesting talks. And we want to continue doing this, though it is not going to be so regular like what we did every day. We used to have one during the lockdown earlier, but we might not have that kind of frequency. But we want to continue doing this. And thanks, Mayur, to accepting to do this today for us in Thalam Talks. What we're going to do is we'll just play a quick 1 minute video, 1.5 minutes video about Thalam. Thalam is an art gallery based in Bangalore. Last 18 months, we were in hibernation mode kind of things, but it kind of revamped because of lockdown. One of the good things that happened in lockdown is this. So I'll just play a quick video about Thalam, 1.5 minutes. By the time more people will join, and then I'll introduce Thalam, and introduce Mayur. Then we'll get on to the session, right? I'll quickly share my screen. Do you see the video?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we had like a learning during this lockdown. It was like some of the good things that happened, like I said earlier. So coming back to Mayur, Mayur is a very good friend, very good photographer, very good filmmaker. He's a great entrepreneur. So one fine day when he was shooting a rock concert, he kind of get to know about his interest in photography, and that passion took him over to a different level, league, I would say. So he worked with a lot of big names. I mean, not necessarily the persons, but also the corporations, including this Mindtree, Boeing, and he did a lot of shoots for many interesting bands. Celebrities like Punit Rajkumar, Sudeep, Raghu Dikshit, drummer Shivamani, AR Rahman, right? So his portfolio is very impressive, very interesting portfolio, I would say. He's not just a commercial photographer. He's not just a filmmaker. He's also an art photographer, right? So he wanted to bring in different flavor to fashion photography, not just commercial fashion photography, but is also into art photography. So I would say during the BWS days, 2006, 2007, then the BPC days, Bangalore Photography Club, which Mayur used to run. Even now we are trying to bring back like the same way we are trying for BWS. So BPC and BWS. So we've gone, back to those days where Mayur and team through BPC launched a book called Bengaluru Mandis. It's called the Bangalore Mandis, The Hidden Hues of Bangalore Markets. It's a very interesting book. Anytime when I think about this book, I feel so bad that I couldn't give a book. I couldn't give a picture for that book. So that's one of the missed opportunities. I always feel bad about it. So Mayur 10 years back started this organization called PhotoMojo, which is a production house which is into photography and filmmaking. And he had this main purpose, one main reason, right? The art of visual storytelling. He wanted to do that bit. It's not just the commercial work. Let's bring in stories. Let's bring in more things into the table is what his thing. So over to you, Mayur. It's all yours. We'll have like 1 hour, 5 minutes to 1 hour kind of present. You can share your screen and then present it. Yeah.
Thanks, PV, and thanks for that lovely introduction. So, first of all, you guys are doing a fantastic job at Thalam. When you look at all the names and the people who are presented, I don't know if I'm worthy of all those names and to be part of that elite list, but it's fantastic to be here and to share something, share my journey so far. It's been a very interesting life, I would say. And so to start with, I am what you call a accidental photographer. Photography was never in the list of things that I wanted to do. And everything started in 2004 when my grandfather, was clearing his shelf. Let me just. Okay. So yeah, it's all started in 2004 when my grandfather was clearing his shelf and gave me his Yashica FX3, it was about 25, 30 years old film camera that he had bought when he went to Germany. And not knowing anything about photography, not knowing how a camera works or what is film, what is exposure, nothing. I just started off with that. Well, to be honest, back then when I started, it was pretty cool. I was still single, and it was pretty cool to hang a camera around and walk around and meet all beautiful people around and chat up with this thing, which was the main motivation at that point, to be honest. But then in the process of taking those pictures, I suddenly realized that there was a medium that I could express, because I'm not a very creative guy. I'll be very honest. I tried my hand at music. I tried my hand at painting, drawing, singing, tabla, you name the instrument, name the thing I've tried, and I gave up after a week of pursuing it. But then there was this medium, which was, the camera, which I found a way to express what I was feeling, express what I wanted to convey. And that's how photography happened. And that was around the same time when BPC, or Bangalore Photography Club, kind of started. 4 or 5 of us, we met. We started a Yahoo group, which is very similar to how BWS started at the same time. And that's where I met some amazing guys. There were people like Prateep, Kaushik, Jayant, Shrikant Chakravarti. We started a Yahoo group and we started sharing tips. We started sharing our photos, and we started going on photo walks. And that one Yahoo group then kind of grew. And then that's when we decided that let's start a website. Now, this was before the days of, Facebook or Google or YouTube, right? And if I am a good photographer, I think I would attribute that, or if I'm a decent photographer, I would attribute that to BPC and the gang back then, because you guys have been my teachers and there was so much to learn. And during the course of exploring, learning, then that's where BPC came up with Frames of Mind exhibitions, where it was a platform to display photography, photographs of people. Now, also, I'll be honest, one of the things during BPC days was, yes, initially, I was quite an arrogant guy saying, oh, my pictures are the best. And then I walked up and showed my pictures to a couple of galleries, and they just rejected. And I was like, dude, these are bloody amazing pictures. What do you mean you're rejecting it? Do you think it's not worth it? Then hell with you guys. I'm going to start my own gallery. And that's how, then that idea bounced off with few people like Deepika, Raghu, and so many of Sabir, and so many of the Venki, and the list goes on. And we said, why don't we do Frames of Mind? And that arrogance was like stripped to the core when I saw there are photographers who are far better than me, and there was so much to learn. Honestly, the ego took a beating that time. And then I said, okay, let's do this. Let's give this platform. Let's start Frames of Mind. And we had multiple editions of Frames of Mind. And as time progressed, we started doing photo walks. And during these photo walks, there was a lot of learning, right? And yes, you might have the best of tutorials online. You might have listened to a lot of people, but there's nothing like being on ground and learning from peers. So that's how Bangalore Mandi's idea came about, and we started exploring, the Bangalore markets. Now, few of you who are part of it might be aware, but for others, the process of how we came about Bangalore Mandis was quite unique, quite different. So we called for submissions. We said, okay, this is the book that we want to come out with, and we asked people to submit images. And once we got the submissions, which was over a period of year and a half, and once we got the submissions, we were about 25 of us who met up at Mahadev Prasad's office, right? And these pictures were just displayed. Nobody spoke, and there were 4 criteria that were put: composition, technical, storytelling, and image quality. 25 of us sat there for at least a couple of hours, not talking, and we just went through each image and we started rating them individually. And the top rating is what kind of came together, and that was put into the book. So the learning for me at that point was, how do you assess, how do you see an image, how do you evaluate an image? So that was a great learning experience, and that's how Bengaluru Mandis came into existence. So that was my foundation. The BPC days was my foundation for learning photography, and which continues even to this day when I talk to friends, talk to people back from BPC, and many of them have kind of grown and have become amazing photographers and stuff like that. Now,
Mayur, just to remind you of this, the book went to Narendra Modi recently.
Yes, correct.
It was given
that's
to...
right. So that's right, PV. I mean, that whole exercise was self-funded by the members of BPC, and we printed about 600 books. We managed to sell quite a few. We distributed a lot, and then the last copy that was left when Mr. Modi came to Bangalore, that particular book was given to him at the airport, and it still continues to be in his shelf, I've been told. So which is an amazing thing, something we should all of us should feel proud of. So we kind of created something fantastic, and that was what BPC was all about, creating something phenomenal. And I see that happening with this platform. You're bringing in learning and bringing in different photographers from different genres to come and talk. Now, so moving fast forward, all this happened while I was working with Infosys, where I spent about good over a decade, almost 13, 14 years in corporate. And my last assignment was with Infosys. So while I was working with Infosys, Bangalore Photography Club happened, and I pursued photography over the weekends, traveling, shooting, whatever I could learn. Now, something amazing happened, and so by the way, so in 2006 is when I moved away, bought my first digital camera, which was a Nikon D300, and sorry. So while I was working with Infosys, I was doing some side gigs, shooting for friends, and I was shooting for Vogue, and things word got around, and I started shooting while I was working. Now, something amazing happened in the year 2008. So while I was working with Infi, right, I used to travel a lot. I used to spend 2-3 months in Bangalore, 2-3 months in London, then few months in US, then come back. And the cycle of traveling was kind of getting onto me. In 2008, end of 2008 is when 3 of us took a break. 3 friends, me, the Raghav and Nags, we took a break. We said, just take a break. Let's pack off. Let's on an instinct, on an impulse, we just packed the bags and we took off to Madhumalai. Now, the rule when we went to Madhumalai was that we said no mobiles, no gadgets, no laptops, nothing. And middle of the forest, we spent 3 days. And during the course of the 3 days, literally on a tissue paper, we made a bucket list. And this was around the time when the movie Bucket List had released, and we watched and we said, okay, let's do our own bucket list. And one of the things that I listed out back then was to do something on my own. What was it? I wasn't clear. Photography was definitely on top of the list. And I listed out quite a few things that I want to do in life. And now when I look back in close to 10 years, when I still have that list, and we still go through the list every now and then. We review where we are, what we are. I must have struck off at least about 60-70% of the things I wanted to do. Now, that list kind of gave me a clarity of what I wanted to do. And so photography was one of it. To start an organization was one of it. To do something on my own was one of it. And that's how PhotoMojo came into existence. Now, around the same time, Infosys, while I was working with Infi gave me an opportunity to relocate and move to US. Since I was traveling so much, they said, why don't you shift and spend a couple of years there? And that was a point. I still remember I was sitting in Coffee Day in Salapuria campus of Infosys when I got a call from the visa department saying that my visa was rejected because they forgot to submit a document. And that was the point. Instead of being upset, I was ecstatic that my visa got rejected. And I knew that that is not what I wanted to do. And that is when I took a call and started. I said, I'm going to resign. And I resigned. And in 2010, I started PhotoMojo. Now, the deal I had with my family at the point was that I'm going to give it a year, because it's very important. It was very important. It still is important that I take my family together in whatever decisions I do. And that applies to all of you, because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to be your support. They're the ones who are going to pep you up when you're down. They're the ones who are going to push you to the next level, because they have that confidence. So the deal I had with my family was that I'm going to give it a year. And if that 1 year, if I'm able to match the salary that I'm going to get, that I was getting at Infosys, great. Then I can pursue this line. Else I go back to my corporate job. And on the notice board that you see at the back, when I started, I had a sticker which had my target for the year. And right next to that sticker target was a picture of a bullet. I said, if I hit that target, I'm going to buy myself a bullet. And I sat down with Priya, my wife, and we said, okay, let's go through the list. Let's see what is it that needs to be done now. If I'm going to quit and start in about 6 months to a year, let's have a business plan. This was not an impulse. This was not like, okay, I'm going to quit today and start photography tomorrow. No, it actually went through a process, a very, very planned process. So we made a business plan. What are the segments that I want to do? What are the segments I want to target? So and so forth. And then we said, okay, let's start working towards it. And in less than a year, we hit the target. And I went and bought myself a 1979 Bullet from Dharmapuri. I went looking for it, and I took a year to restore that Bullet. So being an entrepreneur is a tough journey, but you have to plan. And that's how PhotoMojo, or rather, the company is called Agna, which means what you see beyond your eyes. And not many people were able to relate to Agna to photography. And that's how PhotoMojo as a brand came into existence, which was easy to relate to. So we started in 2010 with photography. And over the last 10 years, we have kind of progressed. In every 3 years, we have reinvented, we have moved into something different. We got into films, we got into documentaries, and then we moved on to animation. And now last year, we moved into design. So we have kind of reinvented ourselves constantly. And it's just not photography anymore. It is a full-fledged production house.
Mayur, I'm reminded of the other thing, because when you mentioned about Agna, Ashok Saravan, Ashok,
yes,
his set of images were exhibited
at the Collective
at the Collective.
2009. Yes,
it's one of the very interesting exhibitions that you put together away from a gallery in a showroom.
In a showroom, yes, and it was Ramnath, Shev, and Ashok's images which we displayed, and that was my first venture. In fact, it was not even photography. That particular exhibition, because that was again a time, right, where a lot of galleries were opening up. There were a lot of things happening in galleries, and we said, okay, let's do something different. And we said, okay, let's get those images into a store and see how it looks. And that actually kind of gave, that kind of set the stage for a lot of other shows which started happening in restaurants, in open air, moving away from the gallery, making art more accessible, making photography more accessible to public, right? And that was the aim when we did that. And yes, in fact, thanks for reminding, that was the first event that we did under the banner of Agna. So now, I mean, you see, that was my daughter, Ishani, who was just about 3 years old. And this was during the lockdown when we completed 10 years with Geetanjali and Ishani at the same place. Life takes a full circle, and we are back there. So that's my journey. That's how I started, and that's how I got, started Agna. But the turning point when it comes to photography per se was music. So I did my MBA in London way back in 2001, and I was there for a couple of years. And during my stay in London is when I got hooked onto Ian Anderson's music, Jethro Tull. Amazing musician, and there was this element of nostalgia when he performed in IIMB, and I just wanted to see Jethro Tull perform. Simple. It was nothing to do with photography. It's nothing. I just wanted to go and watch him play live. Now, the tickets were sold out. And I was just hell-bent on going. And Priya found out in Times of India, there was a small ad saying, if you want tickets, contact this number. So we kind of pulled a fast one. We called the organizers and we said, listen, a bunch of photographers, we would love to come and cover the event and give you photographs. And you don't have to pay anything. We'll just come and shoot. And the organizers were more than happy. They were getting someone to come and shoot their concert for free. And they were getting this bunch of images. They didn't even know who Mayur was. I don't think a lot of people still know, which is, so I shot Jethro Tull. Now, while shooting Anne Anderson, I was at the pit right in front, in like, it was like your own private show. Well, while shooting Iron Anderson, there are a couple of things that happened. One is I realized there was a very, very close relationship between photography and music. Because if you're shooting a performer on stage, you got to be in sync with the artist. You got to feel the beat, you got to feel the rhythm, you got to feel what the artist is feeling on stage, and you kind of anticipate what he's going to do next. At the same time, you're trying to kind of get a sense of the light, you're getting the sense of the smoke, the crowd, the energy, while you're trying to figure out your technical aspects of getting the aperture right, you're getting your shutter right, you're not overexposed, underexposed, all that. Now, when everything comes together and you nail that image, the joy that you get is beyond. It's something which cannot be expressed. No drug in the world can give you that high. And that is what I realized when I shot Ian Anderson. Every time I would anticipate, I knew that he's going to jump or he's going to get it that pose. I was there to nail it. And remember, I really cursed myself for not shooting these images in RAW, because I didn't know what RAW was. I didn't know what Photoshop was. For me, nailing an image in JPEG in camera was what I knew. And when you nail an image, the image that you see on screen right now is unedited. It is what I shot. I just refuse to touch those images. And when you nail it, it was just brilliant. Now, so then I realized, okay, concerts is something which I want to do. Music is something, because I failed as to learn music. I failed to learn dance. And then there was this medium that I could actually get it, capture that moment. So these images landed up on the desk of Bangalore Mirror editor, Srini. So 2007, Iron Maiden performed for the first time in Bangalore. And the day of the concert, around 4:30, I get a call from Srini, who was the editor of Bangalore Mirror back then, or rather, it was Vijay Karnataka then. And Srini calls and says, I saw these images. Are you available to shoot Maiden concert? Our photographer today, unfortunately, fell sick. I was jumping with joy. Everyone was dying to get passes for Maiden. And then there was this person calling me and saying, do you want to shoot? I said, why not? And then I was again back at the pit shooting the Maiden band. And this image landed up on the home screen of the Maiden band to talk about their concert India tour. And that's where my journey, that was my first paid gig in every sense. And did I really care about what I got? I got paid some $200 or something for this image, but that moment was priceless. Then the journey from Vijay Karnataka to the homepage of Maiden translated to a friend looking at the images, and my portfolio landing on the editor of Rock Street Journal. And I covered multiple gigs. I had a chance to shoot Aerosmith, Scorpions, and all these Megadeth. And second time when Iron Maiden performed, I was there to cover them. And I actually had a chance to meet them. And yes, I carried a picture of what I shot, which I wanted to autograph, but I was so kicked about meeting the band that I left the picture behind, and I just came back jumping like a happy rabbit. So that's how my journey as a photographer, as covering bands, music, kind of started off. And then in the course of time, I started when the whole scene in Bangalore changed from rock bands to EDM. I'm not a great fan of EDM, so I said no. I'm not going to uh, cover the EDM bands. So, and then a friend who was organizing Rahman's concert in Bangalore got in touch with me, and that's how I started shooting AR. Now, when I this is something which I had to share. It's just amazing to see how AR works. We have heard stories about his the level of perfection that he calls for. So the day before the concert, he walks in on stage and does a sound check, right? While doing a sound check, there was one particular note that they were not getting it right. Typically, you see people losing their cool. No, he was calm as a cucumber, tries to explain, then walks off stage, sits with the sound engineer, realizes the problem was not with the sound engineer, but with something else. He walks across, and all this absolutely calm, and people don't even realize he's off stage. He fixes everything, goes back on stage, does a sound check. Now, I've seen what happens behind the scene, right? Before he gets, it's just amazing to see how calm he is. And then the way he kind of gets his whole team together, the way he addresses him, the way he actually sits and prays before getting onto the stage. After he's done with the first piece of high energy, and then when he gets into the Sufi music, he actually sits in the room and he does namaz. These things we have heard people talk, but I've seen this happen, and it's just amazing. And that shows the level of dedication, right? So that was the experience with Rahman. And then I had a chance. I said, let me start. There's so many musicians, so many artists in the Indian scenario. So I started covering Indian musicians. Now I had a chance to cover Pandit Ravi Shankarji's last concert in India. After this, he probably had 2 or 3 concerts in Europe, and then he stopped, and unfortunately we lost him. One image which is like priceless, which is, then I have shot people like Ishan, Trilok Gurtu, Zakir Hussain, and I also had a chance to shoot Birju Maharaj, right? I mean, when I shot, he must be what? He must be close to 80 now. And this was almost about 7 years back or 6 years back. At his age, he was sitting in the audience when his turn came to perform. He actually had 2 people had to help him onto the stage. But then once he got on the stage, it was something like, the energy, the motivation that he found. I don't know where he found that. It's such an amazing thing to watch him dance. And that comes from inside, the love that they have for the passion and the love that they have for the art form. Same thing with Sonal Manji, Vaijanti Malaji. And I can't even imagine how our generation is going to be when we get to their age, or I don't even know if we survive and be, what state we will be, but it's just amazing to see them. And at all these shoots, it is just not about, it's just not about just capturing those moments. It's knowing them, what drives them. It's, having an opportunity to talk and learn from them. And that is what photography has given me. It's just not saying taking beautiful pictures. Yes, but at the same time, there's so much you got to learn. And that is what it should be. It's not about, there should be some takeaway. Right? Now, there are a couple of other musicians I'm just going to quickly run through. I had a chance to shoot Grammy winner John McLaughlin. I don't know how many of you have heard of Shakti. If you haven't, please go and listen to Shakti by John McLaughlin group. It's just amazing. Anytime I am down or I need to concentrate or I need to get charged, I just listen to Shakti and it just kind of pumps you up. And I had a chance to interview him. In fact, I have video bites that we have captured of John McLaughlin talking about his influences, where he talks about how Indian music has influenced him, how he had a chance to work with Zakir Hussain, with Shankar Mahadevan, and how the Indian culture and ethos, I'm not talking about just music, but how Indian culture has influenced him. So every year, you won't believe, he comes and spends a couple of months in Arunachala at Ramana Maharishi's ashram. You know, he spends a few days there. And that he says every time he comes there, he gets charged. And he spoke so much about it. So, you know, again, so Pandit Vijay Gathe, Anant Krishnan, Kumaran and Ganeshan. Now, if you Tausik Qureshi, and okay, so again, this was during one of the concerts in Bangalore early this year, when I had a chance to shoot Taufik Ji. Now, this was during the sound check. You know, while he was doing a sound check, and there was this rustic feel to the whole thing, the kind of music that he was playing, the instruments. You see the way the leather on his drums is battered. The box with so many stickers, the bag. There's something totally rustic about it, and the light, everything just came together. And this was like the perfect capture to kind of describe the music that he plays. So from that, I continue to capture, shoot musicians, artists, but it's just not about capture, but for me, it's more about knowing who they are. And fortunately, wherever I have access, whenever I get a chance, I spend some time with them, try to understand who they are and what kind of music, listen to the music before I actually go and shoot, try to understand what drives them. And that gives me a better understanding of what I shoot. Now, I also had a chance to shoot some amazing people. This was late Girish Karnad at Rangashankara. I mean, all of us have, many of us have been to Rangashankara, and we remember that wall of images hanging there. This was during one of the Rangashankara festivals where he was directing, and he just took a break. Now, to be honest, I'll be very honest, I was hesitant, I was apprehensive to approach him because he was in a different zone, right? And it was his me time before the show starts. I didn't want to disturb him, or so I just stood there for a few minutes. I was just standing there. He smiled. I just pointed the camera in my hand, and he said, okay. He just nodded. And again, the frame just came together for me. Him standing there, it was not posed. He was just standing there with his old photograph in the background, and that smile. That's it. That was one image. It's, that kind of defines for me. There's so much story there's so much story that goes with it. So I also had a chance to shoot people like Jayant Kinkani, Arundhati Nag, Girish Kasavalli. Now, if you look at all these three images, I'm just going back. If you look at this image, we actually were interviewing Jayant Ji for a mental health, to talk about mental health and promotion. And this was at his house. So after we finished shooting the video, he was talking about his influences, what defines his kind of music, why he writes, or what he writes, what is the. And while talking about it, this frame, is his corner. He says, this is where I sit, this is where I get inspired. And then for me, that was the story. Now, when I look at Aru Aunties or Arundhati Nag's image, the chairs in the amphitheater of Rangashankara, that's what defines Aru, right? And that, now when I look at Girish Uncle, I mean, I had the fortune to work with his son Apurva on his first directorial debut, Niruttara, and I also had a chance to spend a lot of time with the family. And whenever I go to meet Uncle, it is this corner. This is what I always find him. You know, he's got his books stacked up. He's got his photos with Auntie, and that's his world. And whenever he sits, or whenever he's writing, whenever he's reviewing, whenever he's working, that's where you find him. And for me, this is how I will always remember Uncle, in that corner. So, so understanding the person, it's not as to how many pictures you take. It's not about going click, click, click. It's about those few pictures that we shoot, but those pictures should define what you're trying to communicate. So yes, we had a chance to shoot Vidya Balan in one of the events. And man, I'm telling you, she is one powerhouse. She's just amazing. I don't know where she finds that energy. So the backstory to this image. So typically, before any interview or any shoot, I tend to talk, spend some time, try to break the ice. Now, of course, we all know about Vidya Balan as an actress, as a celebrity, but that is something which everyone talks to her. I was trying to figure out something new about her, something different. So while we were waiting for her to come, I overheard a conversation with the organizers about something that she had requested for lunch. So this was at the Infosys Mysore campus. And they had the more amazing spread that you can think of, Italian, North Indian pastas, you name it, it was there. So she walks in and she says, if you don't mind, can I have some upma? I believe upma and Tayar Sadam is the best on Infosys campus. And that's something which I overheard. And the minute she walked in, the first thing I said is, so how was upma? And she just burst out laughing. And that broke the ice. And trust me, I mean, there are pictures that I can't share at this moment, but at some point I will, of Vidya Balan being Vidya Balan behind the scenes, right? And it's just amazing. So try to find those small trigger points, that kind of makes it fun to kind of interact with them. Don't be so stiff that forget that they are celebrities. They are people like you and me. They are just humans. So the minute you put that aside, you are able to connect with them. This was again, this was a picture of Rahul Bose we shot during Niruttara. So this was one of Rahul Bose's first Kannada movies where he acted as a lead. And I'm telling you, I've worked with few celebrity heroes. He is a method actor that there's so much to learn from. So we give a time call saying 2 o'clock is when we're going to start. I'm a fickler for time. I've had a lot of fights with my clients, a lot of fights with my team. And I don't think twice whether who it is. If they don't follow the time, I lose it. So 2 o'clock is the time when that was given to Rahul Bose. And 1:55, his car arrives. And the trailer is waiting. He walks into the trailer. So we are waiting outside. I'd never met Rahul Bose before that. And there was a certain brief that me and Apurva and the team had decided on how the poster is going to look, what the story is going to be. So I walk in to the trailer, and so there were a couple of other people who were trying to say, oh, let's do this, let's do that, let's have this picture, let's have this t-shirt, let's have these clothes. And I'm just standing there. Then Apu introduces me, says, good, it's about time that you start talking. I like, okay, I mean, these are the stylists, these are the experts who are talking about what needs to be done. Then Rahul says, who's the photographer? I say, I'm the photographer. All right, so now you brief me. Tell me, what is it that you have in mind? Then I go about describing how the shot is going to be, how many shots are going to be taken. The pictures were a transition of time from, where the lead couple are still dating, and then marriage, post-marriage, breakup. So I kind of give a brief, and then he gets into the character amazingly well. In matter of 1 hour, 15 minutes, we finished the entire shoot. He's quick, he's got the wardrobe ready, tuck, 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 you're finished, you walk out. He doesn't waste time. And it's just amazing to see how he gets into the groove. Yes, so I had a chance to shoot Marco Pierre White and also the Australian MasterChef Australia team. And with both of them, I had a chance to spend 3 days while they were here, 2 to 3 days while they were here, and know each of them personally. And a small backstory here about our MasterChef team. So this was during a time where I was traveling so much and working so much, yet I was hardly spending time at home. And so my daughter Ishani wanted to come and meet the team, the MasterChef team. And I said, well, if you want to come and meet them, you got to come and shoot. You earn it. And she agreed. So she actually came. And she came, and she was all but 9 at that time. And I gave her saying, this is what you're going to shoot. This is where you're going to stand. And she did a phenomenal job. And later I was sharing these images with the team, and they just couldn't believe that it was shot by a 9-year-old. And when I finally submitted the images to HuffPost for one of the articles, Ishani's image was picked over mine. And I couldn't have been prouder at that moment about my daughter. It's just, so that was something which is a medium, to kind of, age is not a barrier. So the next couple of pictures, I had a chance to shoot Raghu Dixit, Puneet, Sudeep, Sadhu Kokila. So let me go back to Raghu. Raghu is an amazing musician, amazing performer, and a bundle of energy. There's so much that he has. So we were just trying to figure out how to capture that energy, and it's just amazing to work with him. No air, he works with the photographer, is in sync. Now, Puneet, on the other side, this was a shoot that we did for while the promotion was being shot. So he would, between the shots, he would come, step in, shoot, go back. And he's an extremely involved actor. So during the process, I actually have a live screen where I'm live tethering the images. And he would look at the light. He would look at, how the pictures are turning out. And he actually has a dialogue with you. And it's just amazing to work with him. He's down to earth. He gives you all the attention while you're working with him. So this was another shoot where I had a chance to work with Sudeep. Again, an amazing actor who knows his technical details to the T. But at the same time, he will give you not more than 3 shots. He's known for that. And if you're lucky, between shots, he'll give you a shot. The minute the light goes off, tuck, 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 he said, pack, let's move. And his logic, which I absolutely understand, is whether you shoot 100 images or 3 images, you're going to use only 3 images for your promotion. So don't waste my time. So we didn't know what time we will actually get to shoot him. And we landed up at the sets around, I think around 9:30 in the morning. And we had set up the whole thing. We were ready with the lights, with the backdrop. I had this whole concept that I wanted to shoot until about 4 o'clock. He was busy with shooting the promotion that we never had a chance to shoot it. Then, since I was getting paid anyway, so I walked up to the producer of the show and I said, listen, why don't I just take some pictures of him while he's on the sets? Maybe you can use something for the promotion if at all you don't get time. So I started shooting and he observed me shooting. And then during the break between two shots, I was basically cornered and conned into sit into one of the promos with Sudeep for Big Boss. So if at all you see the Big Boss promo, you'll see one round bald head. That's me. So while the setup was happening, I took the chance because I had done my homework about Sudeep and we were sitting across the table. For the first few minutes, he was very cold, monotones, and I tried to kind of have a conversation, start saying, oh, your new movie is releasing. So are you excited? He's like, what do you think we're responsible? Good. And I was like, okay, what do you talk about to a guy who's just is in monologues? So then I remembered that he loves his coffee just the way I do. I always have coffee. And he actually carries a coffee machine wherever he goes. And then I said, so isn't this time for your coffee break? He looks at the boss and says, you're right. Then he calls his assistant and says, he had coffee, get 2 coffees. And then the conversation starts over coffee. Then I also had done my homework that he loves bikes. And since I ride, we started talking about bikes. Then, we started talking about him driving, since he's from Shimoga and that part of Karnataka. We started talking about the drive, we started talking about the terrain, we started talking about the greenery, and then he eased up. Then someone had told me that he also loves photography. And then we started talking about photography. And there I took a chance and then I showed him a few pictures in terms of how I wanted to shoot and move away from the same standard straight shots. That kind of intrigued him. And then he said, okay, shoot Madana. So a guy who doesn't give you more than 3 shots gave us 3 costumes and spent 1.5 hours, or gave us 1.5 hours of time shooting, which has never happened in the entire season of Big Boss. So that is where you got to connect. And he was just amazing. So he came, he saw the lights, he knew what lights, he knew what angles. And when I was adjusting the light, and he said, okay, this is going to give you, this kind of light, this is going to give you shadows, make sure, this thing is not there, use a reflector. He was giving his thing, and within a matter of minutes, we were done and we got some amazing shots. So knowing your subject, knowing about how to break the ice, it's very, very important. So what are the images that you've seen of all these celebrities? There's a certain tone that comes in terms of fashion. There's a fashion approach or editorial approach to the whole thing. Now, PV had mentioned, yes, so there are a few fine art. So I take a similar approach to, even to my fine art collection. I'm just going to share a couple of images from different series that are shot, which essentially, these are things where I, to talk about is where I work on a certain theme and I collaborate, I work with different people. And the keyword is collaboration, right? So this is a series where we talk about human emotions. And I don't put a caption to it. I leave that to the viewer to kind of interpret the image that they want. PV, how are you doing on time?
We're almost an hour now, maybe 45 minutes of time. So we can have maybe 25 minutes more. You need so much time? 20
No,
minutes?
so what I will, yeah, 15 minutes should be good. So I'll
Okay,
quickly go through this series,
perfect.
and maybe if people have questions, we can take up the questions, right? So if you these couple of these images where I've collaborated with Soundarya, who's a singer, composer, and the idea there was to talk about uh, emotions in terms of how does one express anguish, how does one express desire, how does one express uh, through just the body language. And it's all about the face, it's about the eyes. In most of the cases, it's this that we concentrate on. So this entire series is about that. There are many more, but I'm sharing a few images here. And it's a very elaborate process, right? It's just, so we first, if we have an idea, then I start bouncing the idea with the collaborator. I start talking about what I want to shoot, what is it that we want to depict, what is the light going to be like. I work with my team uh, in terms of deciding on the light, the backdrops, technically, because it's very important that you collaborate with your team. They need to know what you're thinking. It's very important that, because my team, I've been blessed with an amazing team, that people that have worked for the last 10 years. It's been like a synchronized dance with my team, right? So they know exactly what we work on. How are we working on? How, if I move to a left or right, they know what I'm thinking. So on and so forth. So collaborate on the look, the feel, the tonality, and then we finally get onto the shoot. If we don't do this homework, you'll end up spending so much effort and time getting the look and the time, technical right, that you stop enjoying what you're shooting. So it's very important that we work on the concept, not. Now, this is another work that I collaborated with Aya from Ukraine. And here again, it was about emotions. And again, if you see, for me, it's this, that is what kind of gets my attention. It's the face, how there's so much that you can express, communicate with just your face. It's serendipity, it's anguish, it's peace. Now, for me, this is realization, calm. When you let go, but it's been interpreted in many ways. Now you take away the face and you just look at the body. There's again so much that can be expressed just the way you shoot or you kind of compose. And I try to get the tonality as much as possible when I'm shooting. And there's already a tone set in my head, and I use Capture NX to light tether, so where I kind of set the tone. So I know what I'm getting is true, and I spend minimum time in terms of the edit and the coloring. So these are few other shoots that I've done in terms of for Vogue. This is Charmila Nicolette, India's leading golfer, female golfer. So this was a shoot that we did for one of our clients, Wade. The reason why I actually put this image is the brand Wade. So you got to understand, when you're shooting for corporates, for your clients, you got to understand the background. You got to understand the story that where they're coming from. So Wade, for example, actually is the next generation clothing. They have a rich history of being in saris, in clothing, and we wanted to bring that legacy into the new, traditionally modern, is what we call it. So how do we bring that history? So we decided to use the sari as a backdrop. So where, people who know the history of Ved, Devta silks, will be able to relate to the brand. And that was the idea behind this particular shoot. Now, uh, quickly, I'll share some stories of the corporate shoots that I do, which is what I enjoy apart from all this. The reason why I enjoy corporate shoots is given my background, given that I come from having spent a lot of time in corporate, uh, I kind of try to understand what the brand ethos is, what is the technique, what is the technology, what is I try to keep myself abreast with what's happening. And while I'm shooting for clients, I try to understand and bring that piece into the thing. It's just not about the company, it's not about the brand, it's also about the people. So this is the founder of Atlassian, Mike. He's Australia's most richest. He's Australia's richest man. Now, I spent 2 days with him, and whenever I shoot corporates, I try to carry something away. I learn something about their working style. I try to see how these guys work, how they think, and I try to build that into my everyday style of working or living. He is one of the world's richest man. Atlassian, like any techie you ask, will know Jira, and that's been developed by these guys. And he's, in spite of being a CEO, being running the show day in day out, and he travels like mad. He's like forever on the road. In spite of all that, Mike said that he spends at least 3 to 4 hours every day coding. And that's what he says keeps him sharp. And he says, if I forget my roots from where I come from, which is coding, there was a point of building this company. So, and this is what he is. So, in a simple white t-shirt and a pair of jeans and a cap. Right. So when I shoot, I try to understand who they are. Now that's the same thing. This is what shoot we did for Biocon with Kiran Marjindasha sometime back. How many of you have heard of Arvind Mills? So this is the MD CEO of Arvind Mills. And when we had a chance to shoot him, we were given 15 minutes of time. They said 15 minutes is all you get. We went, we set up. I already had the idea as to how I want to shoot. And we were ready. In those 15 minutes I shot only for 5 minutes. 10 minutes, I actually had a conversation with him. I was talking to him about having read about how he took over, the state at what he took over Arvind Mills, the challenges that he faced, and how he built an empire, and what is the future that he. So trying to know who he is and talking to him in person, there's so much you get to learn. And in the course of doing so, he kind of realized that you get that one shot, which kind of defines them. So quickly, now I spoke about the fashion part of it. I spoke about the editorial part of it, the fine art part of it. Now, how do you bring that into the corporate shoots? So for me, these corporate shoots, they are rock stars in their own way. And I try to bring that in. So my association with Mindtree has been close to about 8 to 9 years. And when we walked into Mindtree, we were not the preferred vendors, let me be honest. They were going through the rebranding process. And at that point, the procurement guys had to call 3 vendors. So there was O&M low, and they said, okay, let's call this guy called PhotoMojo. Just let them come and talk about what they can do, and we'll go with our preferred vendor. So I went, we listened to Kiran and team. And by end of the conversation, after listening to them for 1.5 hours, I said, thank you, we won't be able to do the shoot. And I walked out. And a friend of mine who had referred me to Mindtree called up and blasted me. I said, what's wrong with you? Do you realize the size of the deal? I said, it's not a question of size of the deal. You know, I was not able to connect to the requirement. You know, they were talking about this vibrant young brand, and the visuals were, they were talking about a beautiful Faluda and Sunday, and the visuals were plain vanilla. And I won't be able to do justice. I said, then I won't do it. So they called me back after a couple of weeks and said, okay, why? And then when I explained why, and then I gave them an idea, I said, this is how I perceive the brand, and this is how it should be. So till then, if you look at Mindtree's annual reports and AGMs and the board pictures, they are your typical, they're all standing in a line and they're all smiling at the camera. So we set the tone. We said, okay, they're all rock stars. You know, they built this $10 million or $100 million company. They're all rock stars. So let's show them like rock stars. And that's how we shot this image. And during that, one association has continued over the years. So this was the last board meeting of Mindtree. And this was at Bhubaneswar Center, where you see they're very informal. That's what they are. They're very casual. And that association with Mindtree, I don't know how many of you know what happened in the last year or so. So Mindtree, L&T took over Mindtree, and the board resigned and they stepped down, and the founders also stepped out. So how do you define that last image of a company that they have built? For me, that is this. What you see in the front, it is KK, Partha, and Rosto. It's one of the original founders of Mindtree. And this was during one of the awards, the last award ceremony, and they were standing there cheering the crowd. And this frame with the Mindtree family behind them, for me, kind of defines what they have built and what they're leaving behind. So that association with a brand goes a long way. And you got to be emotionally attached. You got to know what the brand stands for. So quickly, on the left, you see Subrato. The first shoot I did of Subrato in his cabin. This was much later, a couple of years later at Bhubaneswar. Both, for me, is something which he created. The Global Learning Center in Bhubaneswar kind of depicts that. And this is at his Mindtree office in Bangalore. That was KK, who was the chairman at that point, CEO, chairman, sorry. KK was the CEO, and then this was the day when he took over as the chairman. Rosso, again, he was the CFO, and this was when he became the CEO of Mindtree. So my association with Mindtree has been long, and many of the corporates, it's the same thing. And yes, when I have those wacky, weird angles and ideas, they definitely entertain that and they cheer me and they know, so let's do it. So this is how I managed to get Rosto. So let's take some questions. So just to summarize, it's like, you know, whatever you shoot, whatever I've done so far, it's not been an easy journey. You know, 10 years of building a brand takes a lot of energy, lot of patience, lot of time. And it is definitely not a bed of roses. There have been times where, I'll be honest, there are times when I said, I just want to give up. I just wanted to wrap everything, shut everything. I said, let me go back. But then you get that odd call from a client, or I won't even call them clients anymore because they've all become friends. You get that one message, one call, or you open Facebook and you see a picture that you shot some 6 years back of a family or this thing, and they say, you know what, I still have this on my wall, or I still remember this picture, and this is my favorite picture, or this is the emotion that you captured. It makes it all worth. And building a team is very important. It is very important that your team trusts in your judgment. You cannot be jack of all and you cannot be master of all. You are good at something, but you need to have a team that complements your vision. And that's how PhotoMojo is. I have Teju, I have Dash, I have Santi, I have Antra, I have all these people who come with each capability. They have their own strengths. And that's what makes it stronger. There are days when I'm tired and these guys step in. When I'm emotionally drained out, these guys step in and they take it forward. I've seen that happen so many times. So I'm ever grateful to these guys. Same thing happens with my family. And whenever I'm down, Priya and the kids are there. My parents, my mom's there, my grandparents, everyone are there to support and say, you can do it. It's okay. You have bad days. But it's not an easy journey. Plan, plan, plan. It is not just taking pictures. If you really want to sustain in this environment, in this industry, it goes beyond taking pictures. You got to innovate. You got to create a niche. Today with the digital, right? Everyone's talking now, moving out. It was film camera, which Sabir is going to be talking on Monday, I guess, right? PV. So Sabir is going to touch about. So there were folks, some of us who started off with film. We've seen digital, and now we are coming on to what you call your iPhone and phone photography. Things are changing. So what is it that is going to make things stand out is your camera is just going to be a tool. It is you. You got to think outside the box. Now in this pandemic, all of us are wondering what is going to happen. Unless we guys are out there shooting on ground, we are not going to survive. You got to reinvent yourself. And how have we done that at PhotoMojo? We've taken a step back and said, okay, I'm going to take the role of a director. I'm going to take a role of writing the script. And I'm collaborating with teams across the country. By God's grace, we've had shoots that kept us busy during the lockdown, but because we had teams in Mangalore who were able to understand what we wanted to go and shoot. We used FaceTime to shoot Abish Matthew at his house during lockdown in Bombay. So you got to invent, you got to think outside the box. One of the things that we haven't spoken about yet is we actually shot a short 2-minute documentary of sorts where the main protagonist is blind. And he was in a lockdown. I was on FaceTime with him, and his wife was shooting on an iPhone camera on FaceTime. We shot that video, and it was not pictures. We shot an actual video using technology. It is possible. So you have to think outside the box. It might not be the best of quality, but if you have a good story, if you have a good script, if you have a good vision as to how you want your final product to turn out, it's possible. So collaborate, work, upscale yourself, learn something new. And this is what I've been doing during lockdown. So yeah, that's my story. So any questions? I hope you know.
Yeah, there are Mayur. It is a very gripping and wonderful way of storytelling. When you're like putting it together, you're just breaking everything into small bites and kind of bringing into the table. Very interesting. There are a lot of questions actually. There are a lot of questions. So we'll unmute one by one.
Sure.
They can just ask question. But before that, like you mentioned, it's not the bed of roses where you can just walk in casually. I've been seeing you for really longer time, and being an entrepreneur in these bad times, and there's a lot of learning, right? So
Oh,
with
yes.
that note, what I'm going to do is I'll ask, I think the first question, Surya mentioned something about, okay, so he's talking about, Surya, you want to ask Surya? I'll just unmute you. 1 second.
I'll just stop sharing my screen. Let's have
Yeah, you can,
Surya.
so we can see your face. Yeah. Surya?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. So you can also show your face. Where are you, Surya?
Yeah, no,
It's okay.
I'm literally working.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Hi, Surya.
Yeah, good evening, sir. How are you? That was an inspiring story, right?
Thanks, Surya.
Yeah, and my doubt about the port fine arts you have showed us, right? The doubt was how will you manage to extract the emotions from the subjects? How will you know that these were the emotions that can be fit on your models, or will you just extract
Yeah.
the
So, like I said, told you, Surya, before I actually get onto the shoot, the actual shoot is just about 10% of the time of the effort. I wouldn't say time, 10% of the effort. So the idea that I have, I talk to the model or the collaborator. I said, this is the emotion that we want. This is the picture that we want. We kind of describe the whole thing. And during the process of shooting, just like how a director would keep talking to the actors, I keep talking to them. Now, if, for example, if I want someone to look very sad, I actually ask them to go to the darkest point of their life, and that comes out. And before that, we have the whole process. We talk about each image, how it's going to come, what is the idea behind. So that discussion is very important, and you got to be quick. The other major aspect is that you never know when you'll get the frame, whether it is the fine art or whether you're shooting a celebrity or when you're shooting candidates, or you got to be quick. You've got to be observant. It's like a 360-degree camera that's on. You should know what is happening everywhere, right? So you keep talking.
Yeah, okay, sir.
I hope that answers.
Yeah, I get you, sir. I get you. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So there's a question from DG. Deepak, go ahead.
Hey, DG.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm good.
Mayur, I remember once you told that once your hobby becomes your business, 80% of the time goes in running the business. So, do you ever take a break just to shoot for yourself? You want to shoot something, and you're like, let's give a break to the business, and I'll just go and shoot for myself.
Absolutely. I do that. I mean, unfortunately, because of lockdown now, I can't. Hopefully soon. But yes, I kind of take a break at least twice a year. I shut down. I just, forget about everything and I disappear. Like, been to Cambodia about 4 times. I've been to Myanmar once. I've been to Kalap twice. So that's another story that's there that I work on. So I definitely take a break. Now, if I can't travel, the break I take while the way I shoot is when I collaborate with other artists. We bring the photography into the studio, right? And that creative process kind of helps me to unwind. And I ride. I just get onto my Harley and I just take off. And I've done 3,000, 4,000 kilometers at a stretch. And you won't believe I've done 3 to 4 trips and I have not carried my camera. The break of not shooting is the break.
Okay.
Right. And rightly, like you said, DG, I mean, once you start running a business, I probably spend just about 10% of my time today shooting. I spend over 70% doing the GST to the invoicing to follow-ups to the business development to managing people to PR to everything. I just spend about 10% of my time. So anyone listening right now, if you're seriously thinking of taking this profession, trust me, I'm telling you, you are just going to be shooting 10%. You're going back to your corporate life again. The things that you said you don't want to do, you'll end up doing. But do I hate it? No. Can I do something different? No. This is the only thing I know now. So probably I will retire doing this. Thanks, DG.
Wonderful. So there's one question from Pranav. Pranav, you can unmute yourself and then ask this question.
Hello, sir.
Pranav, go ahead.
Hey, Pranav.
Hello, sir. Sir, I am like a student in digital media and animation. And along with this, in my course itself, I have photography too. So my question is, like when you said you do your homework and go your before you shoot your subjects, you do your homework and research, and you have an idea of how you want to shoot them also, right?
Correct.
So when you do that, how do you like visualize which position or which like angle will suit your subject? How do you get the idea that okay, this is my subject and this angle or position will be like perfect for them? They have this profile which will look good for this. And how do you like visualize that before you go and shoot? How do you get that idea, sir?
Okay. So when I talk about research, right, the research I do predominantly is about the personality. How do they look when they smile? Or what is it that they enjoy? Because the minute even like anyone gets in front of a camera, the first thing is they're stiff. They got to ease up a bit, right? So that is the kind of research. So I do the research in terms of what kind of books do they like, what do they do in their spare time, about the family, about the business. That's one side of the research. Now, when it comes to the kind of shots I want, now, for example, if I'm shooting someone for their, let's say Kiran Majumdar Shah, that shoot was for their annual report. And so I spent time with the designing team as to how is the picture going to come in the layout? How is it going to look? What is it going to be, a left profile or a right profile? So these are the ideas that I have, and this is what I work on. Now, all the planning that you do will fall flat on day of the shoot because you don't know where you're shooting, or you don't know the location. I try my best now, thanks to Zoom calls and FaceTimes. I ask the team to go and we do a recce. We actually go to a recce, and if now that we can't go, we do the recce remotely. We go say, okay, this is where I'm going to shoot. This is the sofa I need. This is the chair. This is where the light's going to be. It is always a day before the shoot. I do the recce. So I know exactly where I'm shooting, what are the challenges. And in spite of all that, I don't know how many thousands of shoots I've done, I'm still nervous every time I get behind the camera. Every time my team is testimonial for that. I drive them up the wall before the shoot because there's this 20% of uncertainty. But I do my recce. I go to the place. Doesn't matter if I have to travel, I travel and do the recce in advance about the place. And it is that, the minute you start conversing, don't waste too much time. If you see a profile that you have a vision, you have a picture, if the picture is not working, let go of it and move to the next picture. Because when you're not getting, you get frustrated. And that kind of, transfers to your subject. So if you're not getting a picture, you're not getting an angle, light's not working, let's move. That's it. So I do the recce. I go there. I look at the place, discuss with the team, and then we get onto the shoot. Like I said, the planning, research, recce's takes about 80% of my time. It's just the 20% of the actual 10% shoot time and 10% edit. I hope that answers.
Yes, sir.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
One interesting question from Stella. Stella, if you know, there's one of the oldest studios in Bangalore, almost 60 plus years old.
60 plus years,
They're on the
yes.
Wheelers Road. They're on the Wheelers
Yes.
Road, Coxtown. So if you read the question, she's asking about what do we do after this uncertain times? Is there any ideas to reinvent? I think she's asking
Ella,
about a business idea.
yes, I think, you guys have one of compared to any of us photographers, you guys are better off, because the way I see the number of people who've been calling me and asking, right? Oh, you're doing lockdown. I cleaned up my cupboard. I have these I have these pictures. They have these negatives. What do I do with them? I want to get them scanned. I want to digitize it. I think that's an opportunity that you should take. You have the infrastructure. You have a studio. So a lot of people are looking to digitize their stories. So maybe that's an opportunity that you could look at. Now, a lot of people, I'm sure Sabir will talk a bit more and might be a better person to answer this, are going back to film. There are a lot of people who want to learn how to shoot film and they want to learn about this. So maybe a service, a niche where you go back and provide those services. Now, that's a thing, right? Now, going forward, as cameras evolve, there is going to be a segment of photographers who would prefer to go back to be that niche. So it's just a matter of time. Even digital SLRs will be, they'll be antique pieces. They'll be out of this thing. So maybe you can start providing that service of printing film rolls, or maybe 61 years of experience. Maybe you should start teaching how to shoot film and developing shoot film. I don't know. That you have to kind of go back to. That reminds me, I remember reading about this photographer in Hawaii, right? This guy, for almost 60 years or so, he passed away a couple of years ago, but for 60 plus years, he stuck to film cameras. You name the camera he had. He was the go-to person when it comes to film SLRs, right? And he stuck to the niche, and he had this elite or niche photographers who wanted to learn about SLRs, who wanted to develop photographs from films and digitize their work. So maybe that's a segment. Maybe it's time to go back to that niche rather than being a retailer. And with niche comes premium.
Wonderful. I think it's a very important point. And Stella, they're saying it's an ongoing process. And there's another question about what's your advice to upcoming photographers in this COVID situation? Any specific things, especially on the corporate side or the commercial side of it?
So
tough question to answer.
No, it is a tough question. Okay, call me arrogant, call me whatever you want. This is what I tell everyone. If a client wants a photo shoot to be done and they come and tell you, Macha, it's COVID, I don't have money, don't listen to them. You are taking a risk of stepping out and shooting. You are taking the risk of going to the place and giving them what they want. Rather than cutting a price, on the contrary, you should be charging premium. Right? Do not risk. It's not worth it. If that's where I was talking about planning. So whatever money you have, conserve. You will need that for the next few months to stay afloat. But it is not, please, it's not worth taking the risk and stepping out. The way things are, it's just crazy. But use this time to upskill yourself, right? I mean, all of us are photographers who we have our cameras with us at home. Uh, Try using, different ways of shooting: natural light, using flash, using off flash. You have some amazing subjects at home. Your family, create stories while in the process of learning the art. You're creating a fantastic archive of your family. So use this time to learn, but at the same time, be very conservative on your spend, where you spend money, how you spend money. Do not go and save, is all I have to say. But invent yourself. Like I said, I was telling you, right? I gave you a couple of examples how we are collaborating with people outside, how we are using Zoom, FaceTime, technology to use. I'm just trying to recollect. Just give me a second. There's one particular photographer that all of you should check. The name's not coming. Hold on. Jeremy Cowart. That is JEREMYCOWART. Okay. Check this guy's work on Insta. Phenomenal. This guy has worked with who's who of music industry, and he is now he's shooting using FaceTime with projectors and lights and the same studio setup, but he's using the digital platform to do that. Just check this guy's work out. It's just amazing. So there are people who are reinventing. So do that. Hey, Ismail.
One question from Neelam Singh. Neelam, you want to ask your question? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Mayur, can you hear me?
Yeah, Neelam, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is, can one learn photography right from scratch, considering, like you said, it's COVID time, and, if we'd like to upskill, and, we always feel that, okay, we don't have this or we don't have that, but I don't know, with a lot of time on our hands, I'm wondering whether, it's the right time and space.
This is the best time.
To learn photography?
This is the best time. You today, like I was telling you, right? Do you need an SLR or do you need this?
Yeah.
Simple. This is good enough. Photography, the cameras have developed so much in the algorithm. The AI that is built into the cameras are so good that end of the day, you've got to, of course, understand the exposure triangle and composition and stuff like that, but it is how you tell the story.
Okay.
So photography is about capturing those emotions. It's playing with light, bending light, and you can learn. Like, I never went into learned anything from a professional school. I never, we didn't have YouTube or Facebook or the events like this to learn. We learned on our own, right? So
yeah, that's why it took a lot of time.
Yes, it took, but today you can learn faster, right? With so much of information available, with so many experts who are out there ready to share. And I know, at least in our circle that I can think of, you can just ping them on their Facebook or their Insta profile. They'll be more than happy to answer questions, right? And you can, and I think you should. This is the best time to learn.
Okay, thanks. That's very inspiring.
Jayakaran, you said you have a question. Praveen, Jayakaran?
Amana. Hello, Mayur, sir. Been a while.
Hey, Praveen. Hey, call me Mayur. I'm not that old.
Okay. So, you have been in this field as a profession for so long years.
Yes.
What kind of setbacks you had in between?
Okay, so let me put it into different.
So just to give a sense of this one, right? Praveen is shooting a lot of sports photography.
I know Praveen's work.
You know
follow
him.
him.
You
Yeah,
know
I
him.
know
You know him.
Praveen
Wonderful.
very well.
Wonderful.
I
Please go ahead.
went to his office and we have met.
Super. Then go ahead.
Yeah. So Praveen, okay, let me start from the emotional side of it. Right?
Okay.
You are going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. And emotionally, you have to be strong, no matter what. There have been like, I don't know, very few friends, close friends who have known me for years know that there was a phase where I went through depression for almost a year. I didn't shoot while I was running a business, and I almost said, "Chuck it." But then I snapped out of it, and I realized that it is photography that gives me the reason to create something new every day. So emotionally, you have to be strong, no matter what. That is one. Second thing is 9 out of 10 people you meet are going to tell you that your work is rubbish. But end of the day, do you like your work? When you look at a picture, when you look at an image, when you post an image, do you like that image? A question that I keep telling people is, when I put an image on social media and there'll be 100 likes for a certain image, but there'll be 5 likes for a certain image. But still my favorite will be that 5 likes because that is an image that I like. So you are your own critic. And at the same time, you have to listen to those 9 people who said your work is rubbish, and then you prove them wrong. And that's the thing. And even like I was telling you, right, after all these years, even when I go to a shoot where I'm nervous, I'm palpitating, I'm like, I'm driving everyone up the wall. And even after I deliver, I have sleepless nights until I get the call from the client and saying, I like it. I don't want them to say, I love it. I like it. And if they don't like it, the first question I ask is not like, why? I like, okay, why? Is it the angle? Is it the lighting? Is it what? And I make it a conscious effort to take feedback every time I shoot. I call them and I say, okay, I know you like the pictures. Now tell me what you didn't like, so that I can improve. I can learn from that. Right. And Ismail is there, who's just joined in. He's one of our, CROs that we work with. After every shoot, I bug him. After we send, I bug him and saying, yes. So we are actually, for one of the CROs, we are doing a virtual tour where we are shooting about 40 labs, 360-degree videos. Can you imagine the effort that's going into that? Number of people who are involved in that shoot? Barring PhotoMojo team, there are 100 people that we are working on that project to shoot 40 labs. And every time I ask Ismail, okay, is the script right? Is the video right? Is the voiceover okay? Is the text animation, does it have the content? At times I drive my client team up the wall when I don't get the information. You have to push yourself to perfect it. And that is the biggest thing. You have to inspire yourself. You will have bad days, Praveen. You will, you will not have shoots. Like during the entire lockdown, we didn't have shoots. And I mean, you guys are alone, right? You don't have a team depending on you. But running an organization, I have a team depending on me. So that's a pressure. That's a pressure you have to take. And you always plan. There are months, there are days where you will have, I've told you this, there are days, months where you have fantastic shoots. You have a good kitty and I'm all this, okay, let's buy this new lens. No, my team will come back and say, sir, good month, next month we'll wait. They actually pull me back at times and say, no, we don't need that lens. We'll borrow that lens, right? You work with what you have. That's what I'm saying. Save, save, save. And by God's grace, I'm telling you, touch wood, I'm doing it multiple times. Because of this planning during the lockdown, when there were no shoots, we sailed through. And I didn't have to, go back to my team and say, sorry, I won't be able to pay you guys this month. And I'm ever grateful for my team because they came back and said, sir, no tension. We'll see when next month when it comes, we'll see. And that's what I'm saying. You've got to build a team that believes in you. And when the team believes in you, that means that much more pressure on you.
Okay, sir. So when you started, you have been like an individual person. Then you started your own production company. From being an individual person and to become a boss and managing many number of humans, how does that work for you? And like you say, you got to have a very team suitable for you, and they listen to you according to your requirement and behavior, stuff like that.
Correct.
And you need to keep them together.
Motivated. You've got to keep them motivated.
I've seen many people losing their assistants or working team, leave away from production also. 1 year they work with them. After learning everything, they just leave. That's all. They will start their own company. So in that case, how do you manage the human power?
Okay, so let me answer the last question first. How do a lot of people who join? So in the last 10 years, I know, and I've lost count, to be honest, number of people who have joined, number of people who have come as interns, and they have moved out. And I'm proud of every person who has moved out. Because they came, they learned, they started something on their own. And I'm the first person to say, if you want to go and do something outside on your own, do it. I'm here to help you. So there are people who interned and went to Bombay, Calcutta, Chennai, everywhere. Now, when I want a team to work in Bombay, I know this team is there.
Point.
Right? That is collaboration. And tell me something. I have to tell you something. I have learned more from my team than me teaching them. I didn't know how to use Lightroom. I knew only Photoshop. Can you imagine? I would shoot a wedding and I would deliver 3,000 images editing on Photoshop.
Oh my God.
Okay. And then my first teammate, Sajju, joined. Sajju he learned Lightroom and said, sir, I can do this in Lightroom. I sat and I learned Lightroom. Then when we started video production, Santosh joined, Pradeep joined, and then he went and started his own. Then Santosh came. I don't know how to shoot videos. I'll be honest. I can tell a story standing there. I can write a story. I can say, I want this angle. I want that angle. I want this transition, everything. But Santosh has taught me what transition is. And during this last lockdown, I sat down and learned Premiere. So now that I've learned Premiere, I can sit with Santosh and I can use the technical terms. I don't have to say, I just need a cut here, put this cross dissolve. He said, cross dissolve, almost, sir, it's a dip to black. Right? So I have learned from them. And it is very important. And how do you keep them motivated? On the contrary, they keep me motivated. They are the ones who come and keep telling me that, okay, we're getting bored of using the same white background and one Godox light here. Let's use multiple lights. I say, okay, let's try. Right? So, and if we don't do something new every month, these guys will come and say, sir, what next? And that is important. And I'm telling you, nobody is married to an organization. Marriages don't last nowadays. What are you're talking about employees, people with. So nobody is married to an organization. People are going to go out. People are going to, they have their own aspirations. And if someone does not have that aspiration, then something is wrong. And I've told this to everyone who's left. Tell me that you have an aspiration. I'll be the first one to help you, but don't go behind my back. Be upfront, be transparent. I'm okay with that. In fact, I'll help you. And I've done that. But don't go behind my back. Trust is very important with your team. That's a thing. But I drive my team up the wall.
That though we know from those days only how Mayur is and Mayur was and all of that. It's wonderful. So we can have one last question if there's anything. Actually, it was planned for 1 hour 15 minutes. Now we are
with 2.
No, but the question was very interesting, and there are a lot of questions coming in. It's always interesting. One last question, if you have anything. Harish is asking, after hearing so much about the team members, any job openings?
Sir, Harish sir, you can hire me, sir. I'm available.
Where to hire, sir?
No, so I'll tell you. So the way I see PhotoMojo going forward, right? Of course, we have an in-house team. And I was telling you, it is going to be all about collaborations going forward. We cannot step out. I don't want to risk my team, I'll be honest. I don't want to risk exposing my team until things settle down. So it will all be about collaborations. It will be about, there are people in Chennai, there are people in Hyderabad, there's people everywhere, right? And that's how we're going to do now, going forward.
And the good point is everybody is also looking for jobs there in those places, and it works best.
And it has to now, it has to be a consortium. It has to be a platform, and that's where, you know, Hubert, Ankit, Harish, DG, this is what I was talking about. Like why I'm actually sitting and thinking back about reviving BPC is to bring that consortium on. This is not a sales platform. You know, BPC. Okay, there's another thing that I need to share about BPC is when Giant and me in 2009, 2010, when we took a step out and decided that we will start something on our own commercially, Giant and me, we took a call that we will not use BPC to promote ourselves commercially, because that was a platform where photographers came together to learn, to collaborate. And with the same spirit, I want to restart BPC where people start collaborating, not just about sharing pictures, but about learning. It's about, you know, talks like this, you know, bringing different aspects, bringing people from different industries. You know, photography, as a photographer or a filmmaker, there's only so much that you can do. You know, you have people who specialize in editing. You have people who specialize in sets, styling. You have people who are editors, I mean, video editors. You have makeup artists. Bring all of them together onto a platform to learn, because that is what it's all about.
Wonderful. It's very interesting.
Yes, Harish. Sorry. Yes, you're right, Harish. You know, neither BPC or BWS, none of us used it for our commercials, which is fantastic.
Super. So, any final note, if there's anything? I'm happy to see a lot of people repeat, you know, our own set of people who attended the previous sessions during lockdown, even now. Thanks for all the support, and it was wonderful having Mayur today, and then Sabir also. So he will be talking on Monday, the same time. So the poster is still not ready, so I'll maybe publish it tomorrow. And then please do register and attend those sessions. We're going to plan for a lot more sessions where we bring in people from different genres, sharing their work. Like, you know, I know Mayur for so long. Many people also told me that we know him so close, but there is so much more to learn, so much more to know when there is a session like this, right? Because you put in your thoughts and your soul and heart and everything to present something to people. So it's wonderful to, listen to you, Mayur. Any closing note if you have to share, please share, and then we'll.
I mean, it's all I have to say is thanks, PV, for reaching out and bugging me until I said yes. It's been nice. On a couple of notes, it's for me, it's almost like going back and reliving our BBC days, and to see so many faces. And personally, for me, it was fantastic to look at my own portfolio because I had never done this. To put all these things together, right? I mean, there's so much. And one of the lessons that I learned while putting this whole portfolio, the thing together is, guys, it is very important that you catalog your work. And thankfully, the process that we have followed, that my team has cataloged everything in such a beautiful way. For me, it was easy to put a presentation in less than 24 hours. So, I mean, stay safe, keep learning, keep experimenting, keep sharing. The important thing is share. There's nothing new out there that people don't know. It is just that each one interprets things in a different way, and each of us have a different learning style. So share. There's nothing like, oh, I'm going to keep this to myself. No, it's already there. So the more you share, the more you learn. And PV and the team at Thalam, you guys are doing a fantastic job on this platform. Keep going. And now, yes, Tamil I will not be able to understand, so I will not attend, but English sessions I will definitely attend. but yeah, I mean, bringing multi-language presenters is fantastic. You're reaching out to a wider audience, and especially in smaller towns, right, where there's some amazing talent out there. It's just that they need the right guidance, and I think that's what you guys are providing here. Great job
initially, with that. Like you mentioned, I was shocked and surprised when you showed the presentation on the day 2 itself and you agreed for it. And then I was thinking, what? Mayur is ready with the presentation. I don't take these slides. So fantastic it was. And specific to Thalam Talks, I must say we originally thought, okay, we'll have 10 talks from 4 different states. Okay, 10. But it ended up becoming 40 talks only in Tamil Nadu, and we couldn't do much more. But there are plans on to bring in Kannada talks, to keep English talks also going simultaneously to kind of. But there's no frequency, but we'll have.
Yeah, but that's amazing. Having the regional connect is very important. There's so much talent out there, so much to learn from them, right? Brilliant.
Wonderful. So thanks so much, Mayur, and thanks to all of you, all the participants today who are on board. And then the session was live on YouTube also. You can see them later. If you want to share it with people, you can use it. Most of our previous talks also were being used by some of the teachers to show some work. It's been very interesting to know that people are watching these videos also in the YouTube channel. Please do subscribe to Thalam TV. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook. Thanks again, Mayur, for this session. So we're looking forward for Sabir's session, who's going to be talking mostly on his practice in the analog world. He calls himself as a black and white man, and he does a lot of black and white photography, film photography, and he processes his own pictures, develops his own pictures, prints pictures. So it's going to be a very interesting session. I myself wanted to learn a lot more from him on that day. So please do register when I post this tomorrow, day after tomorrow. You'll get to see on Thalam platforms. And looking forward for the session on Monday. Please do come, and then we'll all have a similar fun. Right? Thanks so much, Mayur, again, and to all the participants. Right?
Thanks, guys. Thanks all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayur sir.
Thanks, Farid. Bye. See you, PV.
Bye.